What's up, Swolgers? Thanks for joining me on today's video where we're going to talk about, is Strongman oversaturated? Okay, so this is something a lot of people have been talking about recently with a big rise in the amount of shows that are going on in the sport of strongman. So are there too many? We'll be breaking that down in this video. So before we get into it, please do me a favor. Hit the like button. Please click subscribe to the channel to get more content on strongman and all things getting swole in the mind, body, and soul. Okay, so oversaturated. What do people mean by this? In general, there are too many shows according to the people that say this. So let's kind of start with just breaking down some numbers and we'll go a little deeper into it. So in Florida in 2021 on Iron Podium, there were 6 posted strongman competitions across the entire state. The state is gigantic. It takes 4 hours to drive from East Coast to West Coast. It would take me 9 hours just to get out of the state if I were to go north and out. So it's a big area. So to have only 6 competitions is really not that many. Okay, now last year in 2023, we had 30 competitions across the state. Now this is again all on Iron Podium. Potentially there was even more than that. But that shows a 5 times growth in the number of strongman competitions in just 2 years, all right? Now, some other numbers to keep in mind with that is I started on Facebook, the Florida Strongman Club in 2021, where we now have over 730 members. And just about a year ago, started putting up the Florida Strongman Instagram page. That's got over 500 members. So there are a lot of people across the state. I don't know the population of Florida, but it's over 30 million. So we are getting some people more actively involved in the social side of things. But again, that doesn't account for everybody. You know, every show that I go to, there's still people that don't know about these resources and just people that aren't on social media in general. So there are people out there. And then even for some of these bigger shows like Nationals in Denver, you know, think about flights, lodging, expenses, all of that, a pretty serious commitment. That's still drawing over 650 registrations. So there's some big numbers kind of going on in here. So is there too many shows still for that amount of people? Here are the complaints that are kind of coming up, right? Not enough people per show. So a lot of people say because there are, you know, over 30 competitions throughout the state, shows aren't getting enough people, okay? Many of us that have been in the world of strongman for some time, like we remember when a lot of these shows were very small. My first one, I believe all the way back in 2008, probably about 25 people, and that was seen to be a pretty good turnout at the time. There only, I think there was a lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight class for men. That was it. Pretty broad categories, not a lot of options. There was no novice division at that time. You just had to jump in and do what you could. Now, as the sport began to grow and there was still like a lack of equipment, when there were things like 6 competitions total in 2021, you would start to get bigger and bigger shows, but sometimes the quality was a little less. So for example, 2020 in Florida, I competed in a competition that had 100 people. It was very exciting to be a part of a show that big. However, I was extremely disappointed with the quality of that show for many, many reasons we do not need to go into. But everybody to this day still talks about how disappointed they were with some things in that show. I mean, almost everybody walked away having a bad experience. So even if there was only a few shows with a lot of people, I mean, what do you want? Do you want a big show that's run poorly? Like probably not, right? It would be much better for everybody involved to have more of these smaller shows that are a really amazing time and run really successfully, okay? Now, some other complaints. People say that events are too close together, right? Now, sometimes they're even on the same day. Respectfully, I think it's not nice if a promoter intentionally puts their competition on the same day as somebody else if they are relatively local or if they are going for a similar type, you know, event. So if you're in the same region, same area, I think it should be avoided, but this is a complaint that kind of gets lobbied across, for example, earlier in the spring this year, there were events on the same day in Punta Gorda and Jacksonville, which are 7-8 hours apart from each other. Even if they're 6 or 5 hours apart from each other, that's still a huge gap. So when we're talking about, having something like 700, 800 people that are interested in the sport, and you want like 30 or 40 to make it a successful day, they're that spread out. You should have no problem drawing that. Now, we'll revisit that in just a second. But as far as events too close together, sometimes there are shows on back-to-back weekends. Not really a problem, in my opinion. So, no athlete that really cares and wants to like really, really go after a specific prize or something will have an issue with that. They will either suck it up and do those shows back to back if they care that much about them, or, make the tough choice and choose one or the other. That's just how it goes. I mean, it's the athlete's prerogative to do whatever they want. People complain about sponsor problems, right? And this is kind of one I've heard a handful of times where it's like, well, one company can't sponsor all of these events. And first off, no company has to sponsor any of these events. A lot of times too, like when I personally run shows, I do get sponsors, but I'm not reliant on sponsors to make the bread and butter of this event. I have to be resourceful and do what I can to source the equipment, make sure I have all the moving parts, kind of before I make any big promises about any shows. So this is not really an issue. If you're looking for some like bigger level shows, maybe pro level, things where they've given out cash, like there's not that many of those out in the world yet. So these sponsors that are going to show up to bigger level shows, maybe put some money on the line for this. This is just a kind of a made up problem, in my opinion. So the next one, a little vague on this, but shows aren't blank or shows are blank. This is just, people's opinions on the way that shows should be run. Most commonly, you're going to hear those shows aren't heavy enough, or, these shows aren't real strongman, as if one person or one group of people is the authority on what that is. Second off, let's go ahead and kind of take this into, I want to flip these right into the reality of all these things. And when we have more shows, when we have different things going on, it's going to provide more opportunities for more people at all levels. So, if there's, let's say 90% of these shows are things that people think aren't heavy enough or aren't real strongman, there's still going to be 10% and a growing number that are going to be heavier shows, right? This is just what it is. I'll be skipping over a little bit, but do something or shut up. If you think all these shows out there are not heavy enough, like stop complaining. Why don't you make a show that you think is properly heavy and done the right way that you want to do? It's just that simple, right? Now, that's all there is to it. You also need to support the shows that you do think are successful and well run and done the way that you want. So vote with your views, clicks, and dollars. Let's say you only think one show in the entire world is done correctly, then you should throw all of your support into that one to help that one grow, do better, and be better. And then it will rise to the top and be a dominant force in the competition world, okay? Because what happens is with a lot of these different competitions is many of them are poorly run. Many of them are run for the wrong reasons by promoters that are, maybe thinking this is a cash grab. In some instances, people just want to kind of raise their clout by putting on what they are claiming is the biggest, baddest show. And it's already very clear that people are not picking those shows because the message and the vibe and the way they're run is not good. So again, the cream is going to rise to the top, and these bad shows and bad promoters, they're going to be nowhere to be found soon enough. This is just like a big boom period where you're seeing all these things happen all over the place, but good shows, good promoters, and competitions that are run the way that the community wants them run are going to stick around. Okay, it just will. With all of these people, there will eventually be a trend or trends of what people want, and it will gravitate to that. And the people that don't really care about running a good show for the athletes will be nowhere to be found because it's just so obvious that's how they operate. Now, what we also have to consider too with a lot of these issues is no single show deserves athletes just because, right? Like, even to a point, if some of these shows have been around for a long, long time, they maybe have had high attendance and high participation for many years, but if we're thinking about there were only 6 in 2021, some people are going to be in a situation where there was one show within a 3-hour drive of them every year. We all have lives. We have work, family, obligations, and things to do. It's hard to travel, pay, and just do these things. So if there are now more opportunities, they're not going to want to show up to that same show if they didn't like how it's run. They don't have to. There's no reason whatsoever. So a lot of people expect like, oh, I'm just doing this thing here. It's going to be cool and badass. People need to come to this one. Like, they don't need to do anything. It's the onus of the promoters to step up and create a good show and a good time and an attractive environment for athletes. So this is why I think that we're in kind of one of the best periods we've ever been in for the sport of strongman, is because there's all these different things going on, and what is best for the community to continue to grow this thing will start to stand up and make itself very clear and present. People are trying different things, getting creative with events and ideas and all sorts of stuff. But, what works is going to stick out. And I think what doesn't work is going to go away pretty quickly. Now, if there continues to be a lot of new shows, they're going to have to be good, or again, they just will not last. They will not stick it out. Now, want to hit this point one more time. We're eliminating BS and bad shows. As I talked about this show that had 100 people that I attended that I was really excited about, I think there was less than 20 the following year. And why is that? Because everybody was like, that was terrible. I'm never doing that one again. And sometimes that can be handled intelligently and tactfully by the promoters. So this is kind of getting back to, reasons why these promoters are putting on shows. Sometimes promoters make a mistake. They can be open and honest and be like, hey, this is what I was going for. It didn't really work out. I'm really sorry. And then they can work to improve that, or they can just continue to, basically like the smell of their own shit and just keep pushing forward without considering like what, the community and the athletes want. So there's a lot of overlap here about what I'm talking about between how these shows are being run. Are they being run for somebody's financial incentive, or are they being run to better and grow the community? Now, when some of these shows don't go very well, if we kind of know what that promoter's intention is, a lot of times people will be forgiving. They can come back and that promoter will do better. I continue to learn every single time from mistakes I've made at my shows, and I try to make each one a little better than the last. I always send out feedback forms to the athletes to find out like, what could I have done better? And I've gotten a lot of really good feedback over the years, stuff I've remembered. And I said, I got to make sure that I do that next time. Me as well. I'm looking at what other guys are doing that works really successfully. I say, that's a good way to do that. I'm going to do that next time, right? Just little things here and there. So the people that give a shit will rise to the top and step up to make bigger and better opportunities. And this doesn't really happen at the same rate without this explosive growth in all these different shows. So athletes just have all these options. It's an amazing thing. If you are an athlete or you're a coach with athletes, you get the chance to give yourself or your athletes competitive reps, right? That's going to make them a better competitor. No athlete showed up to Worlds their first time and just opened and dominated without doing any other competitions before. We get better as athletes by having these competitions, by having good experience in these shows. So even some of these where, you want this show or that show to be the biggest, baddest one of all time, you got a lot of options and opportunities on the table just to get good competitive reps to get better. So I really think that people complain that strongman's oversaturated are really having a silly, incorrect mindset about it. Because when you kind of frame what's actually happening here, we're having this explosive growth and we're having like all these amazing things rise to the top that's making it better for everybody, whether it's opportunities, cool events, events in your area. Like it's amazing. Just in Florida alone, we have shows in Tallahassee, in Jacksonville, Amelia Island, Punta Gorda, Bradenton, Tampa. We have one in Fort Walton. We have a couple in Miami, some in Orlando, Gainesville, Ocala. So that's amazing. You do not have to travel and take all this time off to do the sport and activity that you love. I think people need to view it that way and be appreciative. So kind of moving forward, touched on a lot of this stuff. I really think ultimately, not to be too harsh about it, like do something or shut your mouth. A lot of these complaints come from people that have never really been very active in the promoting, working, or running show side of things. So if you do not like something, do something to create the change you want to be in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Shows aren't heavy enough? Okay, no problem. Run a show that you want to see that's really stupidly heavy, okay? There's some that are out there coming up. People are like, oh, well, there isn't enough of this. I'm going to do it. And even if you get like ridiculed or whatever, like doesn't matter. If it's good, if you care about the athletes and you put your effort into it, you can grow that element of strongman if you really put yourself into it. And again, think about what the community is going to want. Don't just shit on people creating opportunities. A lot of times people bring out these ideas and these complaints that are a little more deeper rooted in some personal beef. Now, nobody has to be buddy-buddy with every single person. However, I want to get back to this point about like having options and being able to get competitive reps. Like there are so many shows that you're going to have some local opportunities to get good reps, to have fun, to better yourself, even if that promoter that you don't like is not your, if that promoter is not your favorite person. Like just get out there. If it's that big of an issue, again, you vote with your views, clicks, and dollars. Don't do it if it's that big of a problem, but consider the people that are actually giving others opportunities versus a lot of these people who just complain and do nothing. So don't be just like a blah, 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 blah. Support and participate when you can, or shut up, or do something. All right? This all really kind of comes down to be the change you want to see in the world and support your community. So if you want something done, as I've said probably 4 or 5 times now, it is up to you to go out there and make it so. This is the number one reason why I started running shows in the first place, is I wanted to see shows done a certain way. I try my best to make that happen, and I think a lot of people have positively picked up on that, and I'm very grateful that I always get a lot of support on this. Shows are not too oversaturated because I'm running 2 shows back-to-back days, and I have now almost 90 people coming up from a month from now for those 2 days. So if you think that shows can't get enough people, then maybe you need to reframe that and think that promoter is like not doing well enough, not trying hard enough, or if they just don't know any better, it's kind of up to you to help them out, send people their way, give them some constructive criticism about how they could improve this experience. So just actually be involved and be active, and don't just sit back, blah, 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 right? And run your mouth. So that is kind of a wrap on the is strongman oversaturated. Ultimately, to conclude, no, it's not. And I really encourage you to reframe your thinking and reframe your mind if you think that it is, because what's happening right now is just amazing. It's explosive. It allows so many more opportunities for athletes from ground zero to the very top. More novice people can now come into the sport, which is going to give more revenue for these show promoters, which is going to get bigger opportunities, create bigger shows, which create better, higher level athletes all the way up. We have all these pathways for strongmen to be a pro, to be a world-class level athlete, to travel the world doing this sport. And this only happens by this explosive growth, all these different shows, and an awesome community. So either be an awesome, constructive, friendly, positive part of that community, or be quiet. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I really appreciate it. If you have any thoughts on this, this is kind of a hot topic for some people. I would love to, hear your thoughts in the comments. You can always message me on Instagram at Stephen M. Coyne. If you're looking to connect with me in Florida, check out Florida Strongman Club on Facebook, at Florida Strongman on Instagram. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and have a championship day.